The auditorium was filled with the excited chatter of families celebrating their graduates. But Sarah Martinez sat alone in the third row, her burgundy cap and gown feeling heavier with each passing moment. She clutched her program, watching other families embrace their loved ones, take photos, and beam with pride. The empty seats beside her seemed to mock her achievement. A master's degree in education that had taken her 5 grueling years of night classes while working full-time and raising 3 children. According to YouTube analytics, 99.3% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. Her phone buzzed. A text from her husband, David. "So sorry, babe. Emma's wedding ran long. The ceremony was beautiful. We'll celebrate when we get home. Congrats." Sarah stared at the message, her hands trembling. Emma, her younger sister Emma, who had announced her engagement just 2 months ago and decided on a destination wedding in Napa Valley, on the exact same weekend as Sarah's graduation. The wedding that everyone in her family had chosen to attend instead of supporting her. "Sarah Martinez," the dean called over the loudspeaker. She walked across the stage alone, shook hands with the university president, and received her diploma to the applause of strangers. In the audience, she spotted her best friend Maria, who had driven 3 hours to be there, tears streaming down her face as she cheered louder than anyone else. Later, in the parking lot, Maria wrapped Sarah in a fierce hug. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. 5 years of sacrifice, and you did it." "My own family couldn't even be bothered," Sarah said, her voice breaking. "My husband, my children, my parents. They all chose Emma's last-minute wedding over something I've worked toward for half a decade." "What did David say when you told him how important this was to you?" Sarah laughed bitterly. "He said Emma would only get married once, but I could walk anytime. As if this degree was just some hobby." That night, Sarah sat in her empty house, still wearing her cap and gown, scrolling through social media. Her feed was flooded with photos from Emma's wedding, her parents dancing with the bride, her own children serving as flower girl and ring bearer, David looking handsome in his suit as he raised a toast. Everyone looked so happy, so carefree. Not one person had posted about her graduation. The final straw came when she saw Emma's Instagram story, a boomerang of the entire family at the reception with the caption, "So grateful all my favorite people could be here for my special day." Sarah screenshotted it. Then she began to plan. Over the next week, she watched her family trickle back into their normal routines. David returned to his sales job. Their kids, Maya, 16, Jake, 14, and Lily, 10, went back to school, and life continued as if nothing had happened. They'd brought her a bottle of wine from Napa and a "sorry we missed it" card signed by everyone. "We'll have a proper celebration soon," David promised. But soon never came. There was always something else. Jake's soccer game, Maya's college prep, Lily's dance recital, David's client dinners. Sarah began documenting everything. She started a private blog called The Invisible Achievement and wrote detailed posts about her family's priorities. She screenshotted every social media post from the wedding, saved every text message that showed how easily they had dismissed her milestone, and carefully noted every instance where her accomplishment was overshadowed or ignored. But documentation wasn't enough. Sarah wanted them to understand what they had cost her. Her first move was subtle. When Maya asked for help with her college essays, Sarah said she was too busy. When Jake needed a ride to practice because David was traveling, she claimed she had to work late. When Lily wanted help with her science project, Sarah suggested she ask her father. "Mom, you always help us," Maya complained. "I'm sure your Aunt Emma would be happy to help," Sarah replied coolly. After all, family is so important to her. The kids didn't understand the reference, but David caught it immediately. He tried to address it during dinner one evening. "Sarah, honey, I know you're still upset about graduation, but..." "Upset?" Sarah set down her fork. "I'm not upset, David. I'm enlightened. I spent 5 years sacrificing my evenings, my weekends, my sleep. For what? To walk across a stage alone while my family celebrated someone else's party?" "It wasn't just a party," Maya interjected. "Aunt Emma's wedding was more important than your mother's master's degree?" Sarah's voice was sharp. "Good to know where I rank." The tension in the house grew thicker each day. Sarah withdrew from family activities, stopped cooking elaborate meals, and declined to attend Jake's games or Lily's recitals. The same events her family had used as excuses for why they couldn't attend graduation events. "You're being petty," David said one night after she refused to go to his company picnic. "I'm being consistent," Sarah replied. "I'm finally matching my effort to the value you place on my achievements." Her plan escalated when she discovered that Emma was applying for a teaching position at the same school district where Sarah now worked. Emma's education credentials were thin: a bachelor's degree in communications and no teaching experience, but she was counting on family connections and her natural charisma. Sarah had spent 5 years earning her master's degree specifically to advance in education. She now held a position on the hiring committee for new teachers. When Emma's application crossed her desk, Sarah stared at it for a long moment. Then she began making phone calls to former colleagues, asking about Emma's work history, her reliability, her commitment to education. What she found wasn't impressive. A series of short-term jobs, gaps in employment, and a reputation for prioritizing social events over professional responsibilities. During the interview process, Sarah asked pointed questions about Emma's dedication to the profession. "Teaching requires significant personal sacrifice," she said, her voice steady. "Long hours, continuing education, putting students' needs first. Can you give me an example of a time when you chose professional development over a personal celebration?" Emma faltered. She had no such examples. The committee voted unanimously against hiring her. That evening, Sarah's phone rang. It was her mother. "Sarah, what did you do?" Her mother's voice was sharp with accusation. "Emma says you sabotaged her interview." "I evaluated her qualifications honestly," Sarah replied. "She's not qualified for the position." "She's your sister." "Yes. And where was my sister when I needed her support?" "Where were you?" Sarah's voice rose. "Where was anyone in this family when I achieved something that actually mattered?" "That graduation was just..." "Just what, Mom?" "Just 5 years of my life? Just the culmination of everything I worked for while raising 3 kids and maintaining a household? Just my dreams and aspirations?" The silence stretched between them. "You've changed," her mother finally said. "Yes," Sarah agreed. "I have." The fallout was swift. Emma called, crying and angry. "How could you do this to me? I needed that job." "I needed my family at my graduation," Sarah replied calmly. "I guess we all have to live with disappointment." David was furious. "You're destroying this family over something that happened months ago." "I'm not destroying anything," Sarah said. "I'm just no longer pretending that what happened was acceptable." Her children were confused and hurt by the sudden distance. Maya, who was starting to understand the situation, tried to apologize. "Mom, I'm sorry we went to Aunt Emma's wedding instead. I didn't realize how much graduation meant to you." Sarah looked at her 16-year-old daughter and felt a pang of regret. "It's not your fault, sweetheart. Your children." But the adults in this family made their choices very clear. The tension reached a breaking point during Thanksgiving. The family had gathered at Sarah's parents' house as they did every year. Sarah arrived alone, having told David and the kids they were welcome to attend, but she wasn't coordinating anyone's schedule anymore. Emma was there with her new husband, still bitter about the job rejection. The family was walking on eggshells, trying to avoid the obvious elephant in the room. During dinner, Sarah's father attempted to bridge the gap. "Sarah, we're all proud of your accomplishment. You know that, right?" "Do I?" Sarah asked. "Because when I needed you to show that pride, you were all somewhere else." "We explained," Emma started. "You explained that your last-minute wedding was more important than something I'd been working toward for 5 years. Yes, I understood the message perfectly." "It wasn't last minute," Emma protested. "We'd been planning for months." Sarah pulled out her phone and showed the screenshot of Emma's engagement announcement. "2 months," she said. "You announced your engagement 2 months before my graduation and chose the same weekend. You could have picked any weekend, but you chose mine. The venue was only available. Don't." Sarah's voice cut through the excuse. "There's always a venue. There's always another option. What there isn't is another chance to watch your daughter, your wife, your sister, walk across that stage and receive recognition for 5 years of sacrifice." The table fell silent. Sarah continued, her voice steady but filled with pain. "I sat alone in that auditorium, watching other families celebrate, while my own family was taking pictures and dancing and posting about how grateful they were that all their favorite people could be there. Do you know what that felt like?" Tears were streaming down her face now, but her voice remained strong. "I built my life around this family. I put everyone else's needs first for 20 years. When Jake needed tutoring, I found the money. When Maya wanted to do debate team, I drove her to every tournament. When Lily started dance, I learned to do stage makeup at 5 a.m. for recitals. When David wanted to pursue that certification for work, I picked up extra shifts to cover the costs." She looked around the table at each face. "But when I needed support, when I needed my family to show up for me, you all had somewhere more important to be. So yes, I've changed. I've learned to match my investment to the returns." Emma was crying now. "Sarah, I'm sorry. I didn't think." "That's the problem," Sarah interrupted. "You didn't think. None of you thought about what it would mean to me to have my family there. You didn't think about what message you were sending. You didn't think about me at all." David reached for her hand across the table. "Honey, we can fix this. We can—" Sarah pulled her hand away. "Fix what, David?" "You can't go back in time. You can't undo the choice you made. You can't give me back that moment." She stood up from the table. "I spent months planning to celebrate with all of you. I had reservations at that restaurant you love, David. I bought a dress I couldn't afford because I wanted to look nice for our family photos. I even ordered a cake that said, 'Thank you for supporting my dreams.'" The room was completely silent now. "The cake went in the trash. The dress is still hanging in my closet with the tags on. And I learned that the only person I can count on to prioritize my achievements is me." Sarah's mother spoke up, her voice small. "What do you want us to do, Sarah? How do we make this right?" Sarah looked at her mother for a long moment. "I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I want you to understand that when you choose to support some family members and not others, you're making a statement about value and worth. I want you to understand that I'm done being the person who gives everything and asks for nothing in return." She picked up her purse. Emma got the wedding she wanted with everyone she loved in attendance. You all got to be part of that celebration. But I learned that when I need my family most, I'll be sitting alone. So I'm adjusting my expectations accordingly. As she walked toward the door, her father called after her. "Sarah, you're being unreasonable. Family is complicated. Sometimes schedules conflict." Sarah turned back one last time. "Dad, if Maya's graduation conflicted with my birthday party, what would you tell me to do?" He didn't answer because they all knew. Family milestones come first. "Exactly," Sarah said softly. "You'd tell me that my daughter's achievement was more important than my party. You'd be right. But somehow, when it was my achievement, the rules were different. The drive home was quiet. Sarah felt exhausted but also strangely peaceful. For months, she'd carried the weight of their dismissal, the pain of being overlooked, the anger of being taken for granted. Now it was out in the open. Her phone buzzed constantly with texts and calls, but she ignored them. When she got home, she sat in her living room and opened her laptop. She had one more thing to do. She opened Facebook and began typing. 5 months ago, I graduated with my master's degree in education. It took me 5 years of night classes, weekend studying, and countless sacrifices while working full-time and raising 3 children. I was so excited to celebrate this achievement with my family. None of them came. Not my husband, not my children, not my parents or siblings. They all chose to attend a wedding that was scheduled for the same weekend. I sat alone in that auditorium, walked across the stage alone, and celebrated alone. The only person who came to support me was my dear friend Maria, who drove 3 hours to be there. I'm sharing this not for sympathy, but because I learned something important. We teach people how to treat us. For years, I accepted being the person who supported everyone else's dreams while putting my own on hold. I accepted being the person who was expected to understand when family events conflicted with my needs. I'm done accepting that treatment. I'm done being invisible in my own family. I'm done being the person who gives everything and asks for nothing. To everyone who has ever felt overlooked, undervalued, or taken for granted, your achievements matter. Your dreams matter. You matter. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. She paused for a moment, then added, "And to my family, I love you all. But love without respect and support is just words." I'm done accepting words when I need action. She hit post and closed the laptop. Within minutes, her phone was ringing. It was David. "Sarah, you can't post things like that on social media. You're embarrassing the family." "I'm telling the truth," she replied. "If the truth is embarrassing, maybe that should tell you something. Take it down. Please." "No." "Sarah." "David, do you want to save this marriage?" "Of course I do." "Then you need to understand something. I'm not the same person I was 5 months ago. I'm not going to smile and pretend everything is fine. I'm not going to prioritize everyone else's comfort over my own dignity. If you want this to work, you need to start treating me like I matter." There was a long pause. "What do you want me to do?" Sarah thought for a moment. "I want you to understand what you cost me. I want you to understand that missing my graduation wasn't just about one day. It was about showing me where I rank in your priorities. I want you to understand that saying you're sorry isn't enough if you're not willing to change how you treat me going forward." "I'll do better," he said quietly. "Will you? When the next conflict arises, when the next choice has to be made between supporting me and something more exciting, what will you choose?" He didn't answer right away, which told her everything she needed to know. Over the next few weeks, the Facebook post went viral in their community. Sarah received hundreds of comments and messages from people sharing similar stories of being overlooked by their families. She also received criticism from people who thought she was being dramatic or vindictive. Her family was divided. Some relatives reached out to apologize and express regret. Others criticized her for airing dirty laundry and refused to acknowledge any wrongdoing. Emma called one evening, her voice subdued. "Sarah, I've been thinking about what you said at Thanksgiving. I really didn't understand how important your graduation was to you." "It wasn't just about graduation, Emma. It was about being valued. It was about having my achievements matter as much as everyone else's celebrations. I get that now. I'm sorry. I really am. And I'm sorry about being angry about the job thing. You were right. I wasn't qualified." Sarah felt some of the anger she'd been carrying begin to ease. "Thank you for saying that. Is there any way we can fix this?" Any way to move forward? Sarah considered the question. I don't know yet. But I know that moving forward requires understanding that things can't go back to the way they were. I can't go back to being the person who accepts being overlooked. The marriage counseling sessions with David were difficult. He struggled to understand why she couldn't just get over it and move on. The counselor helped him see that the graduation was symbolic of a larger pattern in their relationship. For 20 years, Sarah has been the accommodating one, the therapist explained. She's the one who adjusts her schedule, who sacrifices her needs, who understands when family priorities conflict with her goals. But when she needed that same accommodation and understanding, it wasn't there. Slowly, David began to grasp the deeper issue. It wasn't really about one missed ceremony. It was about years of taking her for granted. The kids adapted better than the adults. Maya, especially, seemed to understand her mother's perspective. I think I would have felt really hurt too, she told Sarah one day. I'm sorry we didn't think about how important it was to you. Jake and Lily took longer to understand, but they began to notice the changes in their mother. She was less available for last-minute requests, more likely to say no when asked to drop everything for their activities, and clearer about her own boundaries. Mom's different, Lily observed to David one day. How so? She doesn't do everything for us anymore. She makes us ask Dad sometimes. Or she says she can't because she has something else to do. David realized this was true. Sarah had stopped being the default parent for everything. She'd stopped being the one who automatically sacrificed her time and energy for everyone else's needs. 6 months after the graduation, Sarah's family was still adapting to the new dynamic. Some relationships had improved. Emma made genuine efforts to include Sarah and acknowledge her achievements. Others had become more strained, particularly with family members who felt Sarah was being unreasonable or vindictive. Sarah didn't mind. She'd learned something valuable about herself and her relationships. She'd learned that being invisible was a choice, and she was done making it. On a quiet Sunday evening, as she sat in her home office grading papers, a job she loved and had worked hard to qualify for, Sarah reflected on the past year. The pain of that graduation day would always be with her, but it had also been a catalyst for necessary change. She'd lost some relationships, but the ones that remained were more honest and respectful. She'd gained something too: self-respect, boundaries, and the knowledge that her achievements and dreams mattered, even if she had to celebrate them alone. Her phone buzzed with a text from Maria. Coffee tomorrow? I want to hear about your plans for pursuing that PhD program. Sarah smiled as she typed back. Absolutely. And thank you again for being there when I needed someone most. Some betrayals, she'd learned, reveal who truly deserves a place in your life. The empty seats at her graduation had been painful, but they'd also been illuminating. Now she knew exactly who she could count on, and she'd learned that sometimes that person was herself, and that was enough. As she prepared for bed that night, Sarah looked at her master's degree hanging on the wall. She'd earned it through 5 years of sacrifice and determination, and she'd learned to celebrate it on her own terms. No one could take that achievement away from her, and she'd never again let anyone minimize what she'd accomplished. The empty seats had taught her a valuable lesson about worth, priorities, and the courage to demand better treatment. It was a painful education, but one she wouldn't trade. She'd finally learned to be visible in her own life, and that made all the difference.